That's because I rewrote the history. So my branch is completely different from the one that is in the repo. And this is where things, can get a bit hairy. So if I wanted to push this, I would have to git push dash force, which is why we should always do all these rebases in our own branches, not a master. Anyway, so we can move commits in time, and that would help us because we could, just move stuff and have it like linear. But it's still very messy. There's a lot of stuff that those commits are not very useful. For example, why would I have a commit to add an empty file and then the one to add the implementation? It would be better to have just one, right? Well, we can do that. So git rebase dash interactive add 15. We can do that, or this other one, for example, fix typo. Fixed typos are useless commits, okay? Like they just noise. It would be better if that typo never existed, so that which doesn't think that like we make typos when we work. So we can put it back in time when we added the implementation, and use this new end wave gesture, which is called fix up. Fix up will take all the changes in this commit and put it in the one above. So I'm going to show you the typo first. There was a typo there, and I also noticed that I was making a typo, so I wrote that there was a typo. And now we're going to fix it. To do. I made a typo, I need to fix it. Oh, look, now we have 12 commits locally and 13 in the server because we made one commit out of 2. Now, you can see like there's this add implementation for first, and the fixed typo has disappeared. And if we look at the change set for this commit here, the typo is not there anymore, which is awesome. Cool. So we can use this fix up technique to get rid of all the typos, little mistake, that we made along the way of our implementation. Now, as you saw, I made a lot of typos, and I kind of crap at writing. So instead of writing git rebase dash interactive head, I just write gri. And so before we had 15 commits, but we just made one commit out of 2, so now they are 14. There we go. So we can get, like this cleanup up delegate, put it up here. We can get this other cleanup view controller, put it up here, and we do fix up. And 3 commits became 1. And our sort of first commit now is clean, and there's no other stuff that needs to fix it up later on. This is pretty handy. But what about, like, now here I have this add implementation and this other one, add empty first file. If I put all the changes that I made in here into add empty first file, then I'll have a commit that says add empty first file that is not empty. And that doesn't make sense either. There's another gesture that we can use, which is called squash. So we can say squash. And squash is exactly the same as fix up, but it's going to allow us to change the title of the resulting commit. So here it says, hey, I have these 2 commits, down there there's all the information. Those were the 2 messages. What do you want to do with them? And what we can do is just add first file. Rebasing. Done. 11 commits left. If we go look at the diff on first file, it has the file and the implementation, and there's no typo. Right, so let's see if we can use moving commits in the history, fix ups, and rebase and squash to clean up our Git history a tiny bit. All right, well, there's this cleanup first test, and again, the cleanup work is always a bit redundant. Not redundant, but like it's just, that commit doesn't add anything by itself, so we can squash it into the one that has the test. And since we have this fix first test as well, we can squash that as well. Instead of, again, the less I type, the less mistakes I make. So instead of writing squash all the time, I can just write S. That's not because I'm smart, but because Git allows me to do that. Right, so I had added the test, it wasn't working, I fixed it, and I cleaned it up. Those 3 commits, they're only just doing one thing, which is add the test. So we're going to make 1 commit out of them. There you go. And if you want to look at it, add test for first. Here's a test. You see? Nice. Now, we said that like the commits need to be atomic, right? If you add some implementation code, some like production code, you should also add the test at the same time. So it would be super cool to make these two, like add the first file and add the test into a single commit. And we can do that, right? Does anyone remember the technique to do it? Fix up. Or squash, if you feel like you want to change the title. We're going to do that now. But something weird is going to happen. Which is, yep, it's going to be a conflict because all 3 these commits are touching the Xcode project, right? Because we're so lucky that Xcode comes with all this stuff and the project file as well, which is this format that only they understand, and it has all this stuff and it messes up all the time. So Git is gonna get confused because they're messing up with history, you know, and like Barry Allen, sometimes things go wrong. But let's see if we can fix them up anyway. Bang! So Git is telling me that like it could not apply that commit, add test for first, because of reasons. And I can see that there's like some stuff in my Git status that's a bit weird. And it tells me that like, you know, both the commits that I'm trying to work with have modified the interactive Rebase example Xcode project. So let's open it. I really tried to find a good way to have a color scheme good for conflicts. I couldn't find a way to have it. If you know one, just let me know, because I would love to use. No. We're talking about Vim. Let me, okay, a good Vim color scheme. Anyway, so there actually is a tool that's called Vim Diff, which is a good color scheme, but I don't know how to use it. I need to learn. Anyway, back to serious things. What happened? Well, I don't know how familiar you are with resolving conflicts on the Xcode project file, but basically Git is telling us that like this is what was on the head, and these lines is what was on the commit that we were trying to put on top of the head. And here you need to think about the rewriting the history mode, because if you read, it says like, hey, your project file of the commit that you're trying to put on top of add first file knows about second and first test. And now this, if we are rewriting the history, doesn't make a lot of sense because second is still to come. So to fix it, we just remove it. There's another one. Was the same issue. And I'll show you two cool tricks. So this add foo var to the first file is actually a commit that deserves to stay by himself, right? Because it's like a new feature that we're adding to this class that we have. But the commit message has a typo. And again, that witch, she's very picky. And if you give her a commit with a typo, she's going to tell you. So let's fix it by saying reward. Add foo var to first. The commit message is now fixed, like magic. We're almost done. What's going on here? So like new project, add first file, all good. Add second file, all good. Add method to second file. We could verify, but like that second file was empty again. So let's fix it up. So we make one commit. Fix implementation of method for second. Let's fix up this one again. Add useless function, add foo var to first, revert to useless function. We'll get to that later. How many times do you like try to do things and then you revert them and you are left over with all that mess, junk in your Git history? Well, the like super advanced warning, you need to know what you're doing feature of Git Rebase Interactive is that it allows you to remove commits from the history simply by saying, I don't want to see you ever again. And the commit is gone. Now we can force push. I lost my connection. I lost the old CocoaHeads phone. Doesn't matter. We can. No, it is there. Sorry, I didn't see. Maybe I can see. Okay. We git push dash dash force. You see why I use aliases all the time? It's all a typo when I write. And now our Git history is all neat and tidy. The diff is the same. The Git history is all neat and tidy. And if the witch looks at this, she's very happy. And if you, 6 months from now, go back and you look at the history of why you implemented something in a certain way, you're going to see this neat and tidy, short and concise history rather than like a poem, Bible size, to understand why something came into the code base. And I think this is why learning how to do rebases and cleaning up your feature branches is very, very important. That's it. I am MochaJoe on Twitter. I blog every now and then on mochacoding.com, and I just became a dad. So, you know, to have something else to do, I decided to start another blog, which is called daddy.software, and is going to be filled with productivity tips for dads that are software developers. If you want to check it out, it sucks, because you should always be ashamed of your MVP. And that's it, guys. Thanks for the attention. And if you have any questions. All right, so basically the question was, what if I have Git submodules and I have a lot of branches and I move the references of the submodules around in the branches and then I do a rebase? Can I fix it up? Well, the answer is yes, you can do it, because like the submodule to Git is just like another, like, yeah, this file points to this reference of the commit, and just then it fetches out by himself. It's just super messy. because it's hard to keep. I find it very messy, hard to keep all that stuff in my head, and like already travel through time with the Xcode project file is, challenging at times. The submodules are even worse. So the answer is don't use submodules. I'm glad you laughed, because that wanted to be a joke. I'm not very good at making jokes, but submodules are hard, and maybe you need to be very careful and sometimes say, you know what, the pragmatic thing to do here is not to waste hours rebasing and just do a dirty old merge and whatever.